Captain Elias Hart stood on the observation deck of the human starship Valor, staring at the vast Xyrelian core. The planet's surface shimmered with strange, iridescent colors that shifted like liquid glass. Humanity had never seen anything like this, and for Elias, the mission ahead was both thrilling and terrifying. He had been chosen not just for his skill as a commander, but for his ability to represent humanity's best qualities: courage, intelligence, and resilience. The ship's intercom crackled. "Captain, we are entering Xyrelian orbit," said Commander Rena Morales. Her voice was steady, but Elias could sense the tension beneath it. The Xyrelians were an advanced species, feared across neighboring galaxies for their power and strict rule. Elias knew that first impressions here would matter more than anywhere else. One wrong move could end the mission before it began. Elias took a deep breath. He had trained for years for first contact, yet nothing could fully prepare him for meeting the alien queen herself. The stories about her were legendary, brilliant, commanding, and unpredictable. She had conquered her enemies not through brute force alone, but through strategy, insight, and an uncanny ability to understand the minds of those around her. Humans in her eyes were a curiosity, weak perhaps, but capable of surprising strength. The Valor descended through Xyrelian clouds, its hull glowing softly under the alien sun. The landing platform was enormous, stretching miles in every direction, and it hummed with energy. Elysians, the Queen's elite guard, moved like liquid shadows, their sleek armor reflecting the vibrant colors of the planet. Elias felt the weight of their scrutiny as he stepped onto the platform. Every step was measured, every motion observed. "Captain Hart," a voice echoed from above. Elias looked up and saw her, the alien queen. She stood on a raised platform, her figure tall and elegant, crowned with a subtle glow that seemed to radiate power. Her eyes were deep pools of light, shining with intelligence and curiosity. Even from a distance, Elias felt as if she could see into his mind, weighing every thought and motive. "Welcome to Xyrelia," the queen said, her voice smooth and melodic, yet commanding. "We have observed your species for some time. Your survival is intriguing." Elias bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, humanity is honored to meet you. We come in peace, seeking understanding and cooperation." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in amusement. "Words are easy, Captain. Action, less so. You will prove your worth through trials. Only then will we know if your species deserves trust." Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. He had expected tests, but hearing it aloud made it real. "I am ready," he said firmly, hoping his voice conveyed both confidence and sincerity. The first trial was not violent, but it was rigorous. He was led to a chamber filled with complex equipment that resembled a combination of laboratory and obstacle course. The Queen explained that it was designed to test human endurance and adaptability under stress. "You will face challenges of strength, skill, and mind," she said. "Do not fail, Captain Hart. Failure has consequences." The room shifted around him as the trial began. The floor became uneven and platforms moved unpredictably. Holographic obstacles appeared. Walls, barriers, and simulated hazards that required both speed and thought to overcome. Elias's training kicked in. He dodged, leapt, and calculated, moving faster than even he expected. Watching from a balcony above, the Queen's eyes followed his every move. She tilted her head, intrigued by the way he adapted to sudden changes. "Interesting," she murmured. Her voice was soft, almost to herself, but it carried through the chamber. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. It was impossible to tell. Time seemed distorted in the chamber. Elias's muscles ached, his mind raced, yet he pressed forward, refusing to give in. Every challenge he faced, he analyzed and overcame, using a combination of logic, instinct, and sheer determination. At one point, a simulated collapse of the floor forced him to grab a narrow ledge. He hung there, muscles straining, sweat dripping down his face. From above, the Queen's eyes shone brighter, a mix of admiration and fascination. "You are remarkable," she whispered, her voice carrying an almost personal note. "You endure, yet you still think." Elias noticed her comment, though he did not respond. Every nerve in his body focused on surviving the trial, yet a part of him felt a strange connection, as if the Queen were acknowledging more than his skill. She recognized his spirit. The trial shifted again, testing not only his body but his mind. Puzzles appeared, requiring quick thinking and creativity. One required him to balance energy conduits across a shifting grid. Another demanded solving a riddle while dodging a moving barrier. With each success, the Queen's fascination grew. "You're hurting me." "Wait, no, please don't stop," she said suddenly. Her words startled him. He froze mid-leap, unsure how to react. The Queen's eyes shone brightly as she spoke, conveying emotion he could not fully understand. It was as if she were witnessing human potential in a way no one had before. Elias pressed on, realizing the Queen's words were not a threat. They were an acknowledgement of effort, a recognition of the endurance and courage humanity could demonstrate. Her reaction motivated him further, fueling determination that was already beyond ordinary limits. By the end of the trial, Elias was exhausted but triumphant. He stood on the final platform, chest heaving, eyes scanning the chamber, waiting for the Queen's judgment. She descended from her balcony gracefully, her presence commanding even in silence. "You have passed the first trial, Captain Hart," she said, her tone both approving and curious. "Few beings, even in my own courts, endure as you have. Humans, perhaps you are more than I expected." Elias bowed once more, humbled and relieved. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored to meet your expectations." The Queen tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made him feel exposed yet strangely understood. "Your species has strength not only in body but in mind and heart. I will observe further. There are more trials to come." As Elias left the chamber, he felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. The Queen's interest in humanity was no longer abstract. It was personal. She had seen him endure, adapt, and persevere. And in return, she had revealed a flicker of emotion, something that human beings could recognize: awe, curiosity, and a glimmer of respect. That evening, Elias stood outside the Royal Observation Dome, looking at Zarelia's twin suns setting across the horizon. The planet was beautiful and dangerous, a world of immense power and possibility. He knew the trials ahead would be even harder, but for the first time, he felt a true connection, not only to the mission but to the enigmatic being he served and impressed. He reflected on the Queen's words, the ones that had startled him most. "You're hurting me." "Wait, no, please don't stop." He understood now that it was not a command or a threat. It was recognition. The Queen had seen the human spirit in its purest form, resilient, courageous, and unyielding. Elias smiled faintly, feeling a surge of pride. Humanity had arrived in Zyrelia not as weak observers, but as beings capable of earning respect, even from the most formidable life forms in the galaxy. The first step was complete, and the path ahead was unknown, filled with challenges, discoveries, and trials that would push both him and his species to the limits. For Elias Hart, the mission was no longer just about diplomacy or survival. It was about proving humanity's worth on the grandest stage imaginable and perhaps forging a bond that could reshape the galaxy itself. The suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. Elias knew that tomorrow would bring new trials, greater tests, and a deeper understanding of the mysterious Queen, whose eyes shone not just with light, but with curiosity, awe, and a hint of admiration. He took a deep breath, ready for whatever the Queen and Zyrelia would throw at him next. Humanity's story had only just begun. The next day, Captain Elias Hart woke to a sky painted in vibrant colors he had never seen before. Zyrelia's twin suns cast long, shifting shadows across the alien city. The air shimmered with energy, and strange currents seemed to move through everything. Humans might have been fragile in many ways, but Elias felt alive, alert, and ready. The first trial had tested his endurance and spirit. The second would test his mind, courage, and leadership under pressure. The Queen awaited him in the Great Hall, a massive chamber with walls that glowed like liquid crystal. She stood at the center, her posture calm but commanding. Around her, a circle of advisors and elite guards watched silently, their expressions unreadable. Elias bowed. "Captain Hart," the Queen said, her voice smooth, carrying authority and curiosity. "Yesterday you endured well. Today we test your judgment and strategy. Survival alone is not enough. A leader must think, plan, and act decisively." Elias nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty." She gestured toward a large holographic display that floated in the center of the room. It projected a detailed map of Zyrelia's surface with simulated zones of danger marked in red. An attack is imminent, she said. A rogue faction within our court seeks to overthrow me. They will attempt to breach our defenses. You will lead a unit to counter them. Success requires more than strength. It requires planning, quick thinking, and understanding both human and Xyrilian abilities. Elias felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. Unlike physical trials, this one demanded his mind as much as his body. He studied the map, noting the high ground, defensive positions, and zones where the rogue faction could appear. Humans were not as powerful as Xyrilian soldiers, but they were clever, adaptable, and capable of seeing patterns others overlooked. This was his advantage. The trial began in a simulated battle environment. Holographic enemies appeared, moving with unpredictable speed and coordination. Elias directed human soldiers and Xyrilian allies, giving orders that balanced risk and protection. He noticed how his humans used their resourcefulness to outmaneuver enemies, using terrain, timing, and creativity rather than brute force. The queen observed from above, her eyes bright with fascination. Interesting, she murmured to herself. The humans adapt in ways even my most experienced warriors do not. As the battle intensified, a sudden simulated ambush forced Elias to make a split-second decision. A group of humans was trapped in a narrow corridor, and the only way to save them was to send a small team into danger. Without hesitation, Elias led the maneuver himself, guiding his team with calm precision. The queen's gaze followed every move. She leaned slightly forward, her expression a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "Remarkable," she whispered. "You risk yourself not only for survival, but for others." The ambush was overcome, but the challenge escalated. Another zone erupted with traps and hazards designed to test patience and observation. Elias quickly recognized the pattern of the dangers, directing his team with clear instructions. His human soldiers adapted, combining quick thinking with courage. Even the Xyrilian allies began to follow his lead, impressed by his insight. Hours passed as the trial pushed Elias to the edge of mental and physical endurance. Each obstacle was more complex than the last, forcing him to balance strategy with action. The queen's presence was constant, her eyes following him with a fascination that grew deeper with every success. At one point, a simulated breach occurred directly in the queen's proximity. Elias saw an opportunity to protect her, even in a controlled trial, and without hesitation he positioned his team to shield her from the advancing threat. The holographic enemies struck, and the queen's advisors reacted with alarm, yet Elias's plan held. The queen's eyes widened slightly, and for a brief moment her composure softened. "You are extraordinary," she whispered, almost to herself, as if surprised by her own words. "Human courage is rare, and yet, here it stands." Elias noticed the tone of genuine respect in her voice, though he did not allow it to distract him. Every decision mattered, every command could change the outcome. By the end of the trial, the simulated attack was contained, casualties minimized, and the rogue faction strategy completely countered. Elias stood at the center of the holographic map, breathing heavily but resolute, while the queen descended to face him. "You have succeeded," she said, her eyes shining with an intensity that Elias could not fully read. "Few beings in my galaxy can think, act, and endure as you have. You not only lead but inspire loyalty and courage in others." Elias bowed, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only do what I must to protect those I lead." The queen smiled faintly, a rare and subtle gesture that conveyed her approval. "You understand the essence of leadership, Captain Hart. Strength alone is not enough. Wisdom, courage, and empathy are what make a species." Remarkable. The day was not yet over. Elias was led to a quiet chamber overlooking the glowing alien landscape. The queen entered silently and stood beside him, her gaze on the horizon. "You have impressed me, human," she said softly. "You endure pain, think beyond yourself, and show courage in ways even my kind finds unusual. But trials are not complete. There is one final test, one that will show the depth of your spirit." Elias turned to her, curious. "What is it, Your Majesty?" She studied him carefully, her glowing eyes revealing a hint of something deeper than curiosity. "You will face not a test of body or mind alone, but of character. You will encounter situations designed to challenge your morality, your decisions, and your ability to act under pressure when no one is watching. How you respond will determine how humanity is regarded in my court." He nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. This trial would reveal not only his own abilities but the potential of all humanity. It was one thing to endure and succeed in physical challenges. It was another to prove that humans could act with integrity and intelligence when consequences were real. The trial began with subtle scenarios, choices between risk and safety, moments where deception could have made things easier, and situations that tested compassion. Elias navigated each challenge carefully, considering not just the outcome but the impact on those around him. His decisions reflected strategy, empathy, and a commitment to fairness. The Queen watched silently, her eyes shining with a mixture of curiosity and growing respect. "Few beings can remain steadfast when tempted by ease or power," she whispered. "Yet here the human stands unwavering, fascinating." One moment defined the trial. A simulated breach placed innocent civilians in danger. Elias had the chance to secure himself and leave the risk to others, but he instead took the most dangerous path to protect everyone. His human team followed his lead, inspired by his courage and calm decisiveness. The Queen's eyes glowed brighter, her admiration evident. "You understand more than survival," she said softly. "You understand responsibility, loyalty, and sacrifice. This is rare in any species." By the time the trial concluded, the sun was dipping below Xyrelia's horizon, casting shimmering light across the alien city. Elias stood exhausted yet proud. The Queen approached him, her expression calm, powerful yet almost warm. "You have passed more than the trials of strength and strategy," she said. "You have passed the trial of character. Humanity may yet be a force worth respecting in my galaxy." Elias felt a surge of pride, not because of personal recognition, but because the Queen's words hinted at a future where humans were not just observers but participants, capable of earning trust and respect even from the most formidable beings. The Queen stepped closer, her eyes shining. "Your species endures. Your courage, your ingenuity, your heart. It is rare. I will watch further, but for now know this. You have impressed me greatly, Captain Hart." Elias bowed once more. "I am honored, Your Majesty. Humanity thanks you for the opportunity to prove ourselves." She studied him for a long moment, her gaze intense yet thoughtful. "Your endurance is not only in body but in mind and spirit. Few beings can achieve what you have today. Remember, Captain Hart, the galaxy will test you again. But your species, I now see potential I did not fully anticipate." As Elias left the Great Hall, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The second trial had tested his mind, his leadership, and his character, and he had passed. More importantly, he had begun to understand the Queen herself, a being of immense power, intellect and curiosity, capable of both awe and judgment. The night fell over Xyrelia, and Elias gazed up at the glowing city and the distant stars. Humanity had survived more than trials. They had earned recognition from one of the galaxy's most formidable leaders. And in the Queen's fascination, he sensed not just respect but a hint of understanding, a recognition of human potential that could shape the future of interstellar relations. Tomorrow, the final trial awaited, the ultimate test of endurance, intelligence, and courage combined. But for now, Elias allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. Humanity had taken its first steps in earning the admiration of the alien Queen, and with each step, the bond between human and alien grew stronger. The dawn broke over Xyrelia, casting long rays of light across the crystal towers and shimmering plains. Captain Elias Hart felt the weight of the final trial pressing on him. The first two trials had tested endurance, strategy, and character. This third trial would combine them all and determine humanity's place in the Xyrelian galaxy. The Queen awaited him in the central hall, her presence commanding yet calm. Around her, the elite Xyrelian council observed silently, a mix of curiosity and skepticism on their faces. Elias bowed, feeling the seriousness of the moment. "Captain Hart," the Queen began, her glowing eyes fixed on him, "you have shown strength, intelligence, and character. But the ultimate test is yet to come. A galactic threat approaches, one that could destroy both your species and mine if left unchecked. You must lead a joint force of humans and Xyrelians to prevent catastrophe. Success requires courage, ingenuity, and unity." Elias nodded firmly. "I will do everything I can, Your Majesty. Humanity will stand with you." The trial began immediately. Holographic simulations transformed into real-time coordination exercises across the Xyrelian network. Reports indicated a rogue fleet of alien warships, an aggressive species known as the Drakath, was approaching, intent on conquering Xyrelia and annihilating Earth's colonies. Time was critical. Elias quickly analyzed the fleet's movements. The Drakath were fast, relentless, and heavily armed. Xyrelian technology was superior in firepower, but humans brought creativity, adaptability, and unpredictable strategies to the table. Elias's mind worked quickly, combining the strengths of both species to plan a defensive and offensive approach. He coordinated human pilots with Xyrelian warriors, assigning tasks that played to their unique skills. Humans with smaller but agile ships would harass Drakath supply lines. Xyrelians with powerful battleships would defend the core sectors. Elias directed teams through high-pressure communications, making split-second adjustments as the alien fleet advanced. The first wave struck. Explosions lit the sky as human fighters darted in unpredictable paths, drawing the Drakath into traps laid by Xyrelian warships. Elias's strategy worked better than he anticipated. Every human decision and every Xyrelian maneuver fit like pieces of a complex puzzle. The Queen watched from the command platform above, her eyes following Elias with growing admiration. "Humans, your ingenuity is unlike anything I've observed," she murmured softly. "Even in chaos you find solutions." A sudden Drakath maneuver threatened to overwhelm a critical human fleet. Elias did not hesitate. He redirected Xyrelian defenses, ordered a human strike team into the danger zone, and personally took control of a key vessel to ensure success. The humans followed his lead without hesitation, and together they neutralized the threat. The Queen's expression shifted slightly, a rare smile playing across her face. "You act not for glory but for purpose," she whispered. "This is remarkable." As the battle raged, Elias recognized that the Drakath were not just attacking, they were testing unity. Their formations were calculated to exploit weaknesses in coordination between species. Elias had anticipated this. He communicated calmly, giving clear commands, predicting enemy movements and encouraging collaboration across human and Xyrelian lines. Hours passed. The tide of battle shifted repeatedly, each side gaining and losing ground. Elias pushed himself beyond fatigue, focusing on every detail while inspiring his allies. The humans, once thought fragile and unpredictable, now demonstrated courage and cleverness that impressed even the seasoned Xyrelian warriors. Midway through the engagement, a critical moment arrived. The Drakath flagship attempted a direct assault on the Xyrelian command station. Elias realized that stopping it required a bold and dangerous plan. Without hesitation, he led a small strike team in a daring maneuver to intercept the flagship. The humans followed him into a path fraught with danger, their trust in him complete. The flagship exploded in a controlled sequence after Elias's team executed their strategy perfectly. The remaining Drakath forces faltered, retreating in confusion. Victory was within reach. The Queen descended from the observation platform to meet Elias on the battlefield, her presence commanding attention even amid the chaos. "You have done what few in the galaxy could," she said, her voice steady but tinged with awe. "Humans are not only strong and intelligent, they inspire loyalty, courage, and creativity in allies. You have proven the worth of your species." Elias, exhausted but resolute, looked around at the humans and Xyrelians who had fought together. "We all contributed," he said. "Victory is not about one species, it is about working together. That is humanity's strength. We adapt, we endure, and we fight for what is right." The Queen's eyes shone brightly, reflecting both light and emotion. "You have exceeded every expectation, Captain Hart. Humanity, your species is extraordinary. You face danger, think with clarity, and act with purpose. I respect you and your kind." In the aftermath, the Xyrelian Council, once skeptical, acknowledged humanity's value. Humans were no longer outsiders or curiosities. They were allies, capable of contributing to galactic stability and cooperation. Elias had not only passed the final trial, but had reshaped the perception of his species in the eyes of the most powerful alien civilization they had encountered. The Queen led Elias to the observation dome, overlooking the planet and the stars beyond. The battle was over, but the galaxy was vast and full of challenges yet to come. She placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture both personal and respectful. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and heart. Humanity has earned its place in my galaxy. Remember this, Captain Hart, for the future will test you again." Elias felt a mix of pride and humility. He had faced trials unlike anything he had imagined, tested to the limits of body, mind, and spirit. Yet the Queen's recognition and the unity he had fostered between humans and Xerelians made every challenge worthwhile. "You have my gratitude, Your Majesty," he said, "and humanity will continue to prove its worth." The Queen nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and respect. "I see potential in humans I did not fully expect. Perhaps one day your species will shape the galaxy in ways even I cannot predict." As they stood together watching the stars, Elias realized that humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun. The trials had shown that humans were more than survival machines. They were adaptable, intelligent, and capable of courage and creativity that could rival the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. The Queen finally spoke again, her voice soft but commanding. "Captain Hart, your species has endured, adapted, and inspired. The galaxy will remember this day, and I will remember you." Elias looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. There was no question of admiration, they were mutual. He had proven humanity's strength, and in doing so, he had formed a bond with a being of immense power, one who now regarded his species as worthy allies rather than mere curiosities. That night, as Xerelia's twin moons rose over the horizon, Elias reflected on the trials and the journey ahead. Humanity had survived, adapted, and triumphed, earning recognition and respect from one of the galaxy's most formidable rulers. The Queen's fascination was not just with him, but with what his species represented: endurance, ingenuity, and courage. For the first time, Elias allowed himself to imagine a future where humans were no longer small observers in a vast galaxy, but respected participants. A future where humanity's ingenuity and spirit could influence interstellar events, where courage and loyalty were valued across species, and where alliances could be forged through understanding and respect. The Queen's presence beside him was a reminder that great challenges brought great opportunities. Together, humans and Xerelians had proven that unity and courage could overcome even the most formidable threats. And in the glow of Xerelia's moons, Elias Hart felt the stirring of a new era for humanity, for the galaxy, and for the bond that had begun between one human and an alien queen, whose eyes shone with admiration, curiosity, and respect. Humanity had passed the final trial, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again,